Welcome to this episode of Beyond the Battlefield, Stories of Mountain and Air, a video podcast that delves into the diverse and compelling careers of Vermont Guardsmen. I'm special guest host, Tech Sergeant Richard Meckery with the 158th Fighter Wing. Whether you're a fellow service member, a curious civilian, or someone considering a military career, join us as we navigate the intricacies of military life and honor the remarkable individuals who embody courage, resilience, and sacrifice. This week, we're talking with Master Sergeant Conor McManus, an engineering assistant from the Civil Engineer Shop at the Vermont Air National Guard. Good morning, Sergeant McManus.
Good morning.
Thanks for being with us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to be here.
Good. Yeah. So you're with the Civil Engineer Shop at the 158th Fighter Wing.
I am.
Can you tell us a little bit about what made you decide to join the VTAG?
I had been at Norwich as a cadet there for quite a while. Did the whole cadet program and was through Army ROTC. Wasn't certain that I really wanted to take my commission, but at the same time, I was really heavily looking at going into the civilian sector and getting a career. It seemed like a very traditional path to go down, but at the same time, I didn't want to get left out if anything were to ever hit the fan, and I didn't want all the people that I went to college with and stuff going off and doing stuff, and then my not being able to be involved in that. So I wanted to be part of something, and the Guard looked like the way to go. Once I met the Air Force recruiters and visited the base and talked about the different careers that we have available on base, that's really what drove me in that direction. I wanted to do something more with my mind than my body. Being a civil engineer and working in the engineering assistant shop, that really allowed me to do that, and paid for me to go back to college and get an engineering degree. So that was huge, and it really changed the trajectory of my life. And
can imagine.
Yeah. So
when I met you, you were security forces. Can you tell us about what that was like? What happened there, and how that came to be?
Yeah, so I was in the middle of starting my business on the civilian side. I wasn't quite comfortable yet to break off on my own and not have another paycheck coming in. So I went to security forces and did an AGR tour for a year, and was able to do that job for a year, still continue to receive a good paycheck and everything, and that can supplement what I was doing on the outside, and it still allowed me enough time to work on my business and get my business really off the ground. So my full job is I run Mountain Max Cider Company. I started that from scratch, and basically 3 gallons that I did in the backyard that I pressed and fermented, and have taken it over the last few years, or a little more than a few years now, to a really booming business. So this past year I did 40,000 gallons of hard cider out to the state of Vermont, and this year we just picked up Connecticut, and we're working on Massachusetts and New York to get contracts to go there. So that will tremendously increase the amount of hard cider that I put out every month. So it's quite amazing. So it's replaced my income as an engineer and as a construction manager, and this is really, it's gives me a lot of pride in what I'm doing, and makes me feel like I'm accomplishing more than just what I had been accomplishing at a civilian job. So being my own boss is amazing. It's I can make my own hours and I can do my own work. But make your own hours as your own boss is like you're working all the time. So
I would imagine so.
Yeah. So I do that, and I started up, I had to supplement my apples for my hard cider company, so I picked up an orchard called Happy Valley Orchard, and that's in Middlebury, Vermont, and I run that orchard as well. So that really keeps you busy. So when you're waiting for the apples to ferment, for the cider to ferment and make hard cider, you got to be out there in the orchard making sure that you have the next round of apples are growing.
Sure. So, this all sounds pretty cool. How did you get interested in making apple cider or hard cider?
I'd been working too many hours, 6 days a week, 12, 14-hour days. So I started looking at, options of like, how could I be the boss? So, and if I'm going to be the boss, well, what do I really want to do? Is it really construction that I want to keep doing, or do I want to do something that something else? Here's an opportunity to sort of explore that. And I started looking back at the things I missed about like childhood and growing up. And like, I remember like working it with my hands and stuff. Like my father was a logger, and I remember being outside and working with him, and I remember working in the garden and stuff with my mom, and I liked all that stuff. And I'm like, well, I don't really want to get into logging, but I could get into something where I'm working on the land, be a farmer or something like that. At the time, the beer industry was booming back here in Vermont, and I was out west. When the opportunity came back to go to Vermont, or came up to go back to Vermont, I moved all of my hops plants with me back to Vermont, and within a few months they had all died. And then I tried a few other things. It was like one thing after another was just failing, and I was like, the crops would do fine, but I wouldn't be able to sell them all, or the crops wouldn't do well, and I'd have a lot of people asking for them. It was one thing after another, and then sort of got frustrated with it, and one day I had this thought, well, why don't I just try something that's like already growing here, that's like really kind of makes sense. So, so I said, I looked at the farm that we had purchased, and there's like 3 apple trees that are out there, and I just went out and started picking some of the apples. I got a little press off of eBay or Facebook Marketplace, one of the two, and I, it was just like a little tabletop thing. It only did with like, you could only fit like a half a gallon into the press at a time. So I ended up doing like 3 gallons on the press, and gosh, that stuff tasted awful. It was really bad.
These are from the apples that were on your property?
Yeah, they were just like real. In the industry, I call them spitters. You bite into them and you just want to spit them right out. So I call them a spitter. So anyway, I said, couldn't get any worse if I fermented it. And I know a bunch of guys. We all, a bunch of hobbyists, and that I talk to, and guys that get into brewing and stuff, and they just are hobbyists, and it sort of inspired me to well, it couldn't get any worse than I've already made it, so what if I just ferment it and see what happens? So I fermented it, and many months later, sitting by the fireplace, I think it was in February or something, it's cold outside, and the snow was coming down hard, and I went down in the root cellar and grabbed a couple bottles, and I cracked one open while I'm down in the root cellar, and it just goes, shh. I'm like, oh, that's really nice sound. I took a sip, and it was really good, and I couldn't believe how that fermentation had changed the flavor so much that it was actually a decent cider. So I brought a couple bottles upstairs and sat by the fire and had those and enjoyed them, and then the next day that I was back in work, I took a bunch of bottles with me and tried them out with the guys at work, and they all liked it, and they wanted more. So the next year they were all ready to come out and pick apples with me and to help me do the pressing, and we did about 50 gallons that year, and again it grew the following year. You just keep on making it, giving it away, making it, and giving it away. I got to a point where I didn't want to do that much bottling, so I had like 250 gallons. So I talked to a cannery, or canning company, and they told me I should really think about getting a license at this point. And I went ahead and I got a license. And then I ended up getting a distributor too, because if you're going to spend the money to get a license, you might as well get a distributor and get it out there. So I did, and the rest is kind of history. It just sort of started taking off.
You said, was it this year that you put out 40,000 gallons worth?
Yes. Yep.
Is that a big number? How does that compare to some others?
It's not really a big number, but it's a big number for one person to be doing all by himself. That's a lot to do.
You said before you're working with that construction company, you were working, 6 days a week.
Yeah, 6 days a week, like 12-hour days, 14-hour days.
Do you find you're working fewer hours now as a business owner?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No, I'm easily doing the same amount, and forget 6 days now. I'm doing the full 7 days, and but the work is more. It's more rewarding because it's like I'm doing it for myself. I'm outside. I'm not sitting in a cubicle. I'm working with my hands. I can see the impact of every decision that I make, and it's helped me grow a lot and trying to get to the finish line. And it's tough.
So working so much, I don't know if I want to ask you how or why, but you're working so much, you still find time to perform your guard duties.
Right.
How is that possible, or why do you still do it?
Well, it's difficult to do sometimes. More and more as the business grows, I find it more difficult to do those duties. I have a great team and great people that I work with. That's a big part of it. They're very good people, and that's the best. It's like they're part of my family, and that's another reason why I keep on doing it too. Like, that's a part of my family. Like, I don't want to let that go. And it's, you you work really hard all month, and then it's like, I just can't wait to get to drill and see everybody again. I really look forward to that aspect. Like, I can work my tail off all month long, and it's because I know, like, I'm going to be seeing these guys and girls again, and I also know that, like, they're behind me 110%. Like, they're waiting to hear, like, what's been going on this month, and I know that they're supporting everything I'm doing, and are rooting me on. And yeah, I just can't wait to see them again. And that's a big piece of why I come back and keep on doing it.
Are there any skills that you've learned through the military, with the military, that have helped you with the business?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, people skills for sure, leadership stuff. I mean, those are obvious things. Like, yeah, you've got to be able to interact and such with employees that I have. Like, during the season, I'll have to hire people on for the seasonal workers, and I might have 15 to 18 people working for me, and being able to manage that, being able to lead is one thing, but being able to manage that is another thing completely. So yeah, you've got to know how to, make sure that all of those people are gainfully employed for the day, and knowing how to do that, and how to put together a plan for a day, a week, a month. You've got to put that out there for them, or else they're going to be aimless. The military has definitely put that into my mind. I wouldn't have thought of that on my own. It's having done that in the military that really has established that in my mind. So, not to give up. A lot of the quotes and stuff that we rally off at formations and such, and promotions and things. That really, a lot of that comes into play too as a business owner. Like, you're the master of your own success, or your own future as a business owner. And if there is always a harder obstacle to overcome, and then the next thing hits, and you're like, this is so much more difficult. What I just finished was so easy by comparison to this. I should just give up, and you want to. A lot of times you just want to give up on it and let it all go, and your life could be so much less stressful, or less difficult. Like, could go back to taking a cubicle job. It'd be so easy. But no, you just don't give up. Like, and as a leader, yeah, that perseverance, yeah, and as a leader in the military, it's the same idea. Like, you don't know. You've got to be ready all the time. Like, your mission can change. The things that are going to impact you can change, and you've got to be able to move, and you've got to be able to adjust to whatever is happening, and finish the mission. And you can't not succeed. You have to succeed. And it's the same with success in a business. Like, you might not have to succeed, but your business will fail if you don't succeed. So how do you succeed? It's not giving up. It's that perseverance. It's the keep going. It's the drive. And that's something that I learned in the military, and have brought into the civilian sector, is that I just keep on going and just keep it up. And, like, yeah, I'm not going to stop. I'll adjust. I'll make sure that you keep on track with the mission, but you adjust your stance, or you adjust your position. You make it so that you're still going towards, you're still progressing towards that final successful position, completing that mission. And yeah, that I definitely got from the military.
So it sounds like you found success both in the civilian side and the military side. You've been able to accomplish a lot in both. What would you say to someone who may be a business owner on the outside, or someone who might be considering joining the Vermont Air National Guard, who might be on the fence?
This is something that you join not for the short term, but the long term, because you're building a family here. Like, this is truly a family, and you don't expect it. Like, when you come in, you expect to be like military, gung-ho, regimented, and then you get into it and you realize, you're around a bunch of great people, and you're going to be around these people for a long time, and they're going to be here even after you retire. You're going to retire, and you're still going to stay in touch with these people and working, maybe not working with them, but spending time with them. They're going to be your friends for life. They're your family, and you might not expect that. It sneaks up on you.
Thanks so much again for taking the time to be with us here today. Super appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
We've been talking with Master Sergeant Conor McManus, an engineering assistant with the Vermont Air National Guard. Thanks for listening to Beyond the Battlefield, Stories of Mountain and Air. We're glad you've joined us as we talk about the stories of the men and women who serve and protect at home and abroad. I'm Tech Sergeant Richard McRae. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.